Hi everyone, welcome everyone to BDG Tech Talks new episode. And today our guest is Hamlet Aslanyan. He's a senior software development manager in Amazon. Hi Hamlet, thanks for accepting the invite.
Hello,
Happy to
hey Arman. Thanks a lot for inviting me.
That's
I'm very
great.
happy
Thanks
to
for
be here.
finding time.
Yeah,
I know you're a busy person.
yeah, it was my
Uh,
pleasure.
yep. We're in different time zones, so it's a good thing to talk. Always good thing to talk. So, let's start from the big elephant. Actually, one of the questions I know you like for a couple of years, and I am pretty much aware of the topic and the background they're doing in there. But for our listeners, it's kind of uh, two things that they all I think will catch. First thing is Amazon because you
Hmm.
can't ignore such a big corporate component. The second one is software development manager, which is
Yeah.
something new, at least for Armenia, because usually we have project managers, program managers, engineering managers. So let's start from your journey. Let's start from the first
Hmm.
part of the question. Let's start from your journey, how you started everything, and how you end up in Amazon, one of the biggest companies, not the biggest in the world.
Yeah. All right. So where do I begin? I was born and grew up in Armenia. I did my studies at the Polytechnic University, but then midway through I moved to Synopsys, the Synopsys Educational Department, and almost like within a year or two I also started working there. Up until 2014, I think. I got my bachelor's by my master's in computer science within Polytechnic and Synopsys, and I was a senior software dev, senior R&D engineer. That's how it's called at Synopsys back then. And at some point, I wanted to try something new because it's been, I think, 5 years or 6 years that I was with Synopsys. So I moved to a different company. So I moved to Energize Global Services,
Mm-hmm.
and this was not just a company move, but I also got the opportunity to be a team leader there. It was a new team that we were building. There were five of us, and then I think I hired seven more, I believe. And we were working for payment solutions for the European markets. Actually, right now in Luxembourg, when I live in Luxembourg now. I moved back. When I go and pay for whatever it is that I need to pay, the software that does the payment within the machine is very much likely written by my team back in the day in Armenia. So we were doing outsourcing for this huge French company called Atos Worldline. I did a 3 month work and stay in Paris as well. That was all good and nice. I was quite happy with the team. And then in November 2016, Amazon headhunted me. They reached out over LinkedIn. They were like, "Hey, do you want to try?" I think originally they were recommending me to go to Madrid. I was like, "Yeah, sure. Madrid seems nice. Who wouldn't want to go to Spain?" And they fully sponsored the trip to Luxembourg. Interviews were in Luxembourg for 3 days. I did the interviews. I got the job, and I moved to Luxembourg. They switched from Madrid to Luxembourg for some reason at that point. Anyway, I guess that was destiny. So I moved to Luxembourg in March 2017. But I was a senior engineer. I moved in as an engineer, as an individual contributor, and not as a team leader or a manager. Within a year, there was an opportunity. My manager left, and I was like, "Look, I was a team leader before. What if I try to be a manager?" I tried. It worked out. Within, I think, half a year, I converted to a manager in 2019, and then it was COVID and Brexit. So my team owned the European fulfillment network. So everything related to movement of inventory across the borders within EU the system was owned by my team. As you can imagine, Brexit was like, oh yeah, UK is not part of EU anymore, and a whole lot of assumptions that were baked into the systems, they completely broke. And now we needed to fix all of them to make sure that our customers can still shop for their stuff on both on the UK website and the EU websites. So that combined with COVID grew my team exponentially. It was actually pretty hard to manage it altogether because I was the only manager managing, I think, up to like 26, 28 people at some point directly. But slowly, I hired other managers. I built an organization. And in 2021, August, I got promoted to a senior software development manager. At that time, I had three teams reporting to me, working on fulfillment, pricing, and data. There was also a small data team with their own managers. So that was all nice and well, and it was a bit of a hard journey to reach there. So I needed a break. So I took a sabbatical leave for about 3 months. I did a nice trip to the south of Spain. It was all good. And then I came back, and I wanted to try to see how is the corporate world in the US. And Amazon, one of the things that's relatively easy, not that much anymore, but it used to be, this cross-team, cross-country movements within Amazon are very much encouraged. If you're a good employee of the company, if you want to try something else, there's a very high likelihood Amazon is doing that. I don't know, anywhere from robotics or space or whatever. So I decided to try. I moved to Seattle in July 2022. I've been there for about 2 years. I can talk about more on what I was doing there. I was managing three teams, three critical systems. They're called tier 1 systems with the highest availability. So if any of them were down by 0.01% down in their availability for more than 5 minutes, it was a company-wide event with VPs and CEOs and others getting paged. And me as a senior leader owed like every 15-minute a report of what's happening, how are we fixing it. So it was a very different experience in terms of responsibility and the impact that my teams were making. So I've done that for 2 years, and now I'm taking a bit of a longer sabbatical leave. I moved back to Europe, and here I am.
That's a hell of a journey,
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, it's quite a great journey, and I feel we have a lot to discuss in there. One of the questions that raised in my head while you were telling about this, it's like two parts of it. So Amazon is one of the biggest employers in the world, employers of the world, and also you mentioned a couple of teams, but one way or another, Amazon is corporation.
Yeah.
With the regulations, and you mentioned also the criticality of the units. So like 5 minutes outage is a big event in there. So as a manager, you are managing people. So yeah, I understand the responsibility of this, but you're managing people. So are there any approaches that you're using in terms of like embrace creativity? Is there a place for creativity in a structure as an Amazon? Because this, I will explain why I'm asking this, because there is a stereotype, I call it like this, that the big corporate companies, it's like more really straightforward, and there is all on the manuals. You should work on how it is needed rather than create something. Many people are maybe justifying this for not going for the corporates. How is it in real life?
So what you said makes a lot of sense for corporations like, I don't want to throw shade, but maybe like IBM or other like these old school corporations. Amazon was never one of those. So I can tell you, so you asked how do we encourage creativity, and even if it's encouraged at all. I'll tell you about maybe two approaches that are, I think, specific to Amazon. They're probably well known. One of them is definitely known. The other one, I'm not sure if it's that well known. But before I go there, I just want to make sure I mention one thing. All the mechanisms and processes at Amazon, they work for Amazon because the reason they work there is because of the culture of the company that is centered around this thing called leadership principles. There's 14 of them. There's 2 that were added like 2 years ago when the new CEO came in. They're not super, I wouldn't say they're like super well used, the last 2, but the other ones, they're not just, the slogans that you put on a badge and then you forget about it. They're really the ones that we use on a day-to-day basis, like customer obsession, ownership, deliver results, earn trust, and all those things. We measure, we hire people based on those. Some of them, these leadership principles are intrinsic, so you either have them or you don't, like earn trust, for example. But some of them you get to learn, like customer obsession. So Amazon as a company is built around people who embody these leadership principles. And as a result, all the processes and the things, they work kind of magically because the people, all the overall, the majority of the people, they accept it and expect it based on these leadership principles. And one of those leadership principles is invent and simplify. So it is expected from engineers, from software development managers, tech program managers, you name it, anyone, directors, to continuously challenge yourself and ask, can I do this better? Can I do this faster? Why do we do this the same way all the time? There is no, you talk about corporations and people immediately think like, okay, yes, this corporation works with Java. There's none of it at Amazon. Each team can choose their technology, whatever works best for their team, as long as it's compatible with the usual CI/CD pipelines and other development tools. So I want to mention that the culture that was built at Amazon is very different from other cultures in other companies. And it has these 14 pillars of leadership principles that drive human behavior, and it allows space for innovation. Now, about specific approaches, there's the usual things. We have hackathons. I was doing this thing called ownership weeks, when for a week we were focusing on some of the systems and tools that we owned on how to make it better. Maybe we have a bunch of tech debt that we need to go through. So we had those once or twice a year and things like that. But there's two mechanisms that I want to mention. One of them is working backwards mechanism, which is the one that is probably more or less known. And it's this mechanism of writing PR FAQs, like public announcements and FAQs. The idea is very simple, but in reality, it's very hard to implement, and it forces you to think a specific way. So you start with the end result. You write like one pager of, imagine like public announcement. On this day, Amazon launched, Amazon Sweden. Now Swedish customers can buy these things on Amazon with the low prices, blah, 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 maybe with a quote from a customer, and things like that. That sets the vision. You're like, okay, this is what I want to build. That's the end goal. It's not like the first milestone, second milestone, that comes later, but this is the end thing that I want to do. And the next, ideally up to 6 pages, you write FAQs. So it's like questions, how would this work with this existing customer experience? How would you measure success? Would dogs not barking is worrying you? Maybe you're trying a new idea and there's some things that you're not sure, and maybe we need to assess those. And this combined with those leadership principles, that asks you to be vocally self-critical, to challenge your idea, you write it down. You basically challenge your idea and see like, how can I actually make this happen? And then the other Amazon culture is this thing that we don't do presentations of ideas, that none of that works. You just schedule a meeting where literally there's like a vice president that owns all of Europe for Amazon, let's assume that, and a bunch of directors, business partners, stakeholders. They sit together for half an hour. They just read the document that you wrote. They read it, and the next half an hour, you talk. You're like, yeah, this works. What do you need to make it work? What about this? What about that? I think that's a very unique thing to Amazon, I believe. All companies have their writing culture, but Amazon working backwards culture, I think, works great. I've seen it multiple times for ideas from my teams, from engineers of my teams, product managers, reach to a higher level, to a VP in the same room. You just discuss an idea that was literally an idea like 2 months ago, and you write the document, you discuss it, and boom, you have funding, and you start working on it within the next 8 months. And that's encouraged to engineers too. And the beauty of it is it's again, well-defined and simple process of writing these PR FAQs. So an engineer can write it, and you can also write a PR FAQ for a tool that would help you to do your coding faster or specific operational task faster. So you can adopt it to any other needs that you have. The second approach is what we call this two-way door decisions. So these are, Amazon has notion of one-way door decisions. These are usually stuff that once you make a decision, it's very hard to walk away from it, like a new customer experience or a checkout experience or whatever, because these they have a very large blast radius, and if you do it wrong, it might backfire you. So you need to spend a lot of time thinking, what is the decision? However, Amazon believes that the majority of the decisions are two-way door decisions. So instead of going into this design paralysis of like, oh my God, do I need to have it red? Do I need to have it yellow? Is the button supposed to be here? Do I need to use Java or Kotlin as my backend language? You make a decision based on the data that you have. You take a calculated risk. That's what Amazon calls it. And if it pans out, great. And if it doesn't, you revert it back and you try something else. Those are the two-way door decisions. So this in combination with the writing culture allows this level of innovation that is very, very infrequent to large corporations. So to a sense, of course, Amazon also has regulatory things. You have like all campaigns for security and a whole bunch of things, obviously. But there's this aspect of the culture that allows engineers, PMs, you name it, to come up with their ideas, and there's a way to present those to leadership and get them funded. And you can actually make a thing happen for your customers on Amazon. We've done it here, for example. We launched an expansion user interface for our sellers to sell in multiple EU countries at the same time instead of doing it one by one. So that's one of the things that came out of our side, and it ended up being a thing for our customers.
Sounds really not corporate,
I know.
What I heard is basically I was hearing like something like a design boutique, a small development boutique, where like startup.
Yes.
You start doing rather endless discussing that, and this is actually a really amazing thing. And I think I didn't hear something like that about other corporate companies, and I think this is really vibes with the thing you mentioned. It's all about culture, I guess, and it's all about how it works specifically for Amazon, because I'm not sure, for example, other corporate companies, it will work the same, because I guess it was built the way in there. But this we talk about like creativity in there. But I will ask about my 50 cent, let's call it like this. I'm very much fan of Agile, Scrum, and all these methodologies. There is a stereotype, again, that companies like Amazon, big corporate companies, are not using Agile, for example, because of all these things that you mentioned, like regulations, security stuff, and like we should have planning for a year. We should have like a 5 years development plan in there. We should check like multiple layers in terms of development in there, which naturally kills agility. This is what I heard a lot, and there's where all the debates on the LinkedIn are always in there, like. Is Agile for corporate? No, Agile is for small teams and whatever. So let's take it like not describe it as the Amazon. Based on your experience through the Amazon prism, what do you think of this stereotype? Is it a stereotype or it has some roots in it?
So it has some roots in it. If you are purist, if you really want to have like Scrum at Amazon, like pure Scrum, unless you work on a secret project that is just you working on it, it won't work at Amazon. Because there's two reasons for it. And there's an aspect of regulatory and other compliance things. But those, for me, at least in my experience at Amazon, those are not the ones that hindered our ability to use full Agile. We were Agile to a certain extent in terms of processes, but it was not full Agile. And those two things are, number one is there's too many interdependencies. Because of this sense of ownership, each team owns essentially like a vertical slice of the company, like one software service, two services. And if you want to launch a new feature that cuts across multiple verticals, you need to work with, let's say, 19 teams, 20 teams, 26 teams in endless number of geographies with different processes, as I said, different software development methodologies, because there's not unified one. And making that work in the pure agile manner would take forever because of the second reason, which is ambiguity. Corporate, like the projects at Amazon, they're not ultra crisp defined because of this two-way door decisions. You gather data as much as you can for that point in time, and then you make a decision and you move forward. But then you can revert it back and change it. So there's a little ambiguity in decisions, in projects that we have, that things might change. Well, I think I would say that the things will change because that's how it works at the projects at Amazon. And because of that, you can't really spend, and also the projects are not that long for you to hone your skills of estimations and points to make sure that, okay, if you say it's 8 points, that it's probably going to be 8 points. So like this combined, you do like a mimic of agile. You do a two-week planning. Some of my teams used Kanban because that worked best for them, or at least a form of Kanban. One methodology, by the way, that I think works well for Amazon, especially if you have a large project that spans multiple teams, that's the Scrum of Scrums. That one works. If you get leaders from individual teams gather together once a week and you talk about blockers, progress, like in larger scale of the project, and each individual team does their own stuff. And then you make sure that you don't block each other. That works wonders because I've seen that work at Amazon several times recently as well. We were doing a very large re-architecture. So yes and no. Corporations do use Agile, but a corporation version Agile. And I don't think that's necessarily bad. These are ideas. You have Agile, you have Scrum, you have other versions of it. I think of them as blueprints. They're this ideal world where everything it's your product, you know everything about it, ins and outs, there's practically no or little ambiguity, or you have tools to deal with the ambiguity, and you can implement these pure methods. But for a large corporation like Amazon, where also people are coming in and out fairly frequently from your team, doing pure version of the Agile, I don't think it's working. At least in my experience, it didn't work. So you adapt it to your team, you adapt it to the level of ambiguity that you have.
I think it's also a matter of tailoring because basically, in my understanding, based on my experience, like methodology, framework, whatever you call it, should work for the sense of the project rather than vice versa. But you should not use something because it's fancy or because everyone is doing this, because each company, each team has unique needs. So if it's not working for me, I can switch for another methodology or another framework or create something new for me, which works unique for my team. And if this benefits the business, I mean, it benefits the people inner comfort of doing amazing things. That's what we need basically here. Mm-hmm. One of the things also Amazon is very known for is innovations, and I hear a lot in the news, like in tech buzz world, let's call it like this, all this innovation in robotics and AI and everything. And Amazon is right now what basically started as an e-commerce business. Right now is like one of the technological leaders of the world. Mm-hmm. So seeing everything that from the inside, what kind of what do you think will be the next trends? I know the general answer is AI, but it's a kind of beaten topic, let's call it like this. So any kind of trends that you see in the future? Because many people, I will say why I ask this, many people claim that traditional software engineering is dead, coding is dead. I don't know. We need to do like this. No code is the future. AI will take there are a lot of things in all the noise of this. So as a person from one of the innovative companies in the world, on the front side, what's your opinion on that? And basically your opinion, from.
Yeah, did blockchain become the future? It didn't. It was also the talk of the town about 10, 15 years ago. I did, again, not throwing shade on blockchain specifically. So your question is, where would software development go in terms of methodologies and approaches?
Let's take it more. I don't want to take it too abstract, but I want to
sure. I totally got it. So I would not answer AI because I did work with AI. And the way I cannot talk about the project that we did with AI. It was great as an experience. But the way I look at AI right now, it's imagine a junior engineer or a junior colleague in your team. They can do the work that you want them to do if you tell them very, very specifically the steps that they need to do, how to do it, and what to say. Anything that goes above, beyond those things, AI has intelligence, but it does not have that level of experience that, let's say, a senior engineer can have to really, innovate and be creative. So that's how I look at AI. With that in mind, I think the current, at least the short to mid-term use of AI, is not going to be like no code. Of course, that's also an option, but I don't think so. The way I look at it is almost like, computer-aided design, CAD design about 40, 50 years ago. It's similar going to be with AI. It's going to be AI-aided design and development. Code Whisperer, Copilot, you name it, whatever. They will be the ones helping you write the code. They will be the ones doing static code analysis much better than the tools that we had before. So I see AI, I use AI in coding quite regularly. It helps. It's not hindering my ability to code, but I don't want to give it off completely because I don't trust it, and we know that it can hallucinate, etc. So that's one thing that will likely happen. The second technology trend, of course, the cloud move is still going on. I think there's Andy Jassy, the CEO of Amazon, he recently said that at least still about 79% of the infrastructure is still not in cloud. So there's a huge market to be gained for cloud development. That will continue to move forward. However, in my opinion, there's a very specific niche of software development that is making a comeback, and that's a low-level software development. Anything related to microcontrollers, GPU programming, anything that allows you to squeeze as much juice as possible from the hardware. Let's be honest, it's pretty expensive, the hardware, as much as possible from those. So that's another area that I believe in the next 10, 15 years is going to be one of the leading software development processes and methodologies in the next 10 to 15 years, because the materials are finite. So we need to be able to squeeze as much as possible out of them, be it for AI, be it for GPU programming, be it for robotics. So there's also for auto or car or autonomous car driving. All of them are more or less a low-level software development with C, with CUDA, and then other things. There is another aspect that has a very, very strong need, and it will continue to have so. And I think that's the security-related aspects. Because as the world is becoming more and more interconnected, any vulnerability, in your coffee shop app can expose you to other things with your banking, with other stuff. So making sure that the software development secure software development practices, and it's a continuous evolution, because cyber attacks also evolve. That's another aspect that will remain a necessity, and I don't see any of them going away in this like apocalyptic manner that people assume with AI. As I said, it's going to be AI aided. I don't think AI is coming to take away C developer jobs, because they're going to be, in my opinion, very, very higher demand. Maybe not in C. Maybe it might be like Rust or other newer version of the language. So those are the ones that I think are going to be probably at the forefront in the next 5 to 10 years at least.
So no risk of starting the career in the programming field.
No, not at all. You will have the ability to write no-code applications, but let's be honest, you could do that before. Like you could have like WordPress applications, you can have like websites with Wix and other things. It was possibility. It always was. Did the web development profession go away? I don't think so. And you will have the ability to write no-code You just write with like human language and come up with something, but actually make it work for your customers who will be happy to use it. That's a skill that AI does not have, and I don't think it will have in the near future. So you will need to have software developers. Again, the aspects of your work might change. Again, as I said, you might be working more with microcontrollers or robotics or any other things, but software development will still remain. I don't think it's going anywhere.
Yeah, that's a good future, I guess. I kind of can live with that. And
Yes.
actually, a question which I always ask is like kind of a final question in there. If someone from our like listeners would like to repeat your journey or perform a similar one, what will be your advice, like where to start and what to maintain throughout it? Because what you describe in your journey, it's kind of a set of decisions which might be unique for you. I mean, you made a particular decision in a particular part of your life to change something and you go, which might not be like ideal for anyone else, but there should be a pattern, let's call it like this, what should be kept internal in the person. What will be your advice for that?
Yes. So I think regardless of my advice would be regardless of which team you are, what project you work on, what technology you work on, it might look like, oh yeah, I'm working with C, everyone is working with Kotlin or Java or you name it, whatever is the next thing right now. It's not cool, or I need to change it because I have more. Don't think about those. Whatever you do, work on doing it as best as you can. Because first, things are usually circular. There might be a time 5 years from now where you will be in super high demand because there's not a lot of people who know the specific skills that you know. But more importantly, if you focus on doing what you do best to the best of your abilities, you reach to a point and you're like, okay, I've done this enough. Now I want to try something else. And you do that to the best of your abilities. At some point, you get noticed because any company, anyone who's hiring, they want people who are, again, from Amazon world, they are owners. They own whatever they do from the start to end. They don't say, it's not my job. That's not type of people that people want to hire. And there's a saying in Armenian, "Dashat's karaget in chimenum." At some point, it would come to you. You can look for it, of course. I'm not saying just be in your little corner, do your stuff, and hope that suddenly you're going to be noticed. But whatever you do, dedicate yourself to doing it as best as you can. That would be my advice. Essentially, be a professional. If you're working, don't drop the ball. Even if you're not happy with the company, even if you're not happy with the team, even if you're not happy with the project that you're working on, if you said yes, or if you have to do it, you do it to the best of your ability. And I guarantee you, if you do that long enough, only good things will come towards you. That would be probably maybe a life advice even. That doesn't necessarily mean you're going to end up at Amazon, but maybe it's also better for you not to end up at Amazon and you end up in somewhere else. Maybe in your company or some other awesome company.
Yeah, there are endless opportunities. And,
yeah.
Something I always tell also for my students as well is like, now the world has no boundaries, and like you can end up anywhere. And the important thing is to be happy. And the only thing to be happy as a professional, I do agree with you, is to do something and feel fulfilled. I mean, like feel that you are contributing to something amazing. And there are a lot of companies that thanks for finding time on that, John. And it was really a pleasure for me to discuss with you so much interesting stuff in there.
Thank you very much,
Sure. And we'll be happy to host you in Armenia next time when you'll be here.
Of course. Thanks. I would love to. Thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. It was super nice talking to you.
Thanks. See ya.